All right, welcome everybody. The Oceanside Library's Poets Near and Afar, and we thank everybody for joining us. We're having a lot of fun here at the library with all of this, and I'm glad to see that you're all participating, and we love having you and love hosting this series. So tonight we were supposed to have Dan Brady from California and our own just recently former Nassau County Poet Laureate Evelyn Kandel, and we hope that Dan will join us. We'll have an open mic after Evelyn's reading. And again, if Dan comes in after his reading, we ask that you do one poem, non-epic length, but certainly you could just enjoy the time. If you do not want to be in the open mic, please put it in the chat. That's all we ask. All right. So without any further ado, Evelyn Kandel.
Very much. Good evening, everyone. It's nice to be reading to you tonight, even if I'm doing it on my phone. As long as you can hear me, things are good. I can see you. So if you fall asleep, I can see you. When I have to read, and in my class, I used to like it when we met in person so that everybody would have the poem to look at while they were hearing it. Sometimes if you don't read very slowly and carefully, people miss what it's about. But well, I'm just going to start with I gave an assignment to my class to write what is a poem, and some really great things came through. And I'm just going to one line from Gladys Thompson Roth. I thought it was such a great answer. A poem is an intimate conversation between the reader and the writer. So we are now getting intimate. So I'm going to read two poems from my book, Between Stillness and Motion. And the first one is, Tuesday's Child is Full of Grace. And this is a happy poem. I slept in a small crib in a large hospital. I was warm and cozy. Mommy and Daddy brought me home to a house they rented for $18 a month. My daddy's not rich, but he's got a job house painting. Many people don't have jobs and some sleep on the street. Things were so bad, Bing Crosby sang, "Brother, can you spare a dime?" Daddy has a new Chevy that costs $610. Times are tough, but he needs it for work. On Sunday, we go for rides, the three of us. Next month, there will be a new president, FTR, they call him. When I'm older, I listen to him talk to us on the radio. He called them fireside chats, but we don't have a fireplace in our house. Lots of things happened in 1932. Some were very sad because a little baby was kidnapped and his father was famous. I'm glad it wasn't me because the baby boy was killed. My dad took lots of pictures with a box camera. Then we got a new one called a Polaroid, just invented by Mr. Land. It was an exciting year to be born in, even if my mother made me take cod liver oil so I wouldn't be sick with something called tuberculosis. I don't think she took the medicine because she got sick and went to heaven, and I'm still here. And the second poem from this book that I'm reading, What Joy at Last. As I was picking out poems, I realized that a lot of the happy poems always had an undertone of something not really happy. Sorry about that, but what joy at last. What joy to write these words, free flowing, bubbling up, deep wellspring of concerns, rising from sleep of long years, silenced by politeness and fear. What joy at last. Free flowing love notes bubble up, dark as blood gushed in time past, hot as passion kept tight leashed, sweet as lute notes on rainy window, written in pearled drops. Rising from sleep of long years, no longer tamped down with guilt. Yawning, stretching, words arise, spill out, lovers in ink, pen held tenderly as a child. What wakening pleasure. Not silenced by politeness and fear, words flow unhampered. Inscribe this life, now well defined. What joy at last. And from the Nassau County's more recent Poet Laureate Society review, the most recent volume, I have 2 poems, and these are loss poems. And the first one is Breathing. It was early morning when the sky lightened just above the horizon, while below the air was sweet, everything quiet. I watched you breathe, your breath slow, shallow, slow, shallow. I watched you breathe, tiny movement of the blanket matched the rhythm of your breath, too slow, too slow. Sun flooded the window, throwing light on the gleaming floor, on your covered form as you breathed your shallow breaths. I watched you breathe. And a second sad one, The Last Touch. When I walk in the world through the city streets without your steps beside me, I pass loneliness lurking behind the door into our dark house. If I open the door, I find only still, empty rooms where once there was your laughter, filling my ears and heart. Now I live with shifting memories and cannot bring your face into focus. Sounds of comfort blur and fade and gone. The last touch of your hand. And for the weather report, thank you. From my book, And So It Goes, we have December candles. What's that I hear? Air crisps around ears, grass crackles underfoot, trees past their moment of blazing glory, sit sullen and bare. Something has changed. The outdoor cats come around more often. Food grows hard quickly in the cold air. Hard to be upbeat when outerwear grows more cumbersome each day. Daylight loses its brightness. Dusk comes early. Electric candles, tiny beacons like the darkness of year's end. And then moving on to January 2023, here is the January weather report. This milky morning, all the secrets outside my window are wrapped in fog. Walnut tree, feeder of squirrels, stretches starkly against gray mist. Water down the hill, now invisible in its gray shroud. Silent, misty blanket, nudging house and ground. I wonder what would happen if I, in slippers and robe, were to step outside, feel the wetness against my face, walk, dew spattered down the lawn, dance in grayness, gather droplets in my hair, and sing to the neighbors, come on out and play. Okay, so moving along to, here's a group of short poems I had written recently, so I just put them together. They're not haiku, but they're short. Room of Secrets. We wrap our secrets like lovely memories, but they are sharp and still hurt. Spirit House, 1. Guard the room of the spirit, it needs protection. Guard the spirit, it remains forever vulnerable. Guard it, protect it. Without it, we cannot live. Spirit House 2. In this room, we walk quietly. There is a soft chant from the walls. The spirit sits in contemplation and utter peace. And a little advice, the waiting room. Good things may not come to those that wait, for life is not a waiting game. And if you choose to sit it out, be careful of the chair you choose. And a poem about writing poems and how it can be difficult. I'm not like Judy, who knocks one off every day. Okay, but if I could steal her things the way Billy Collins has advised, I would. But okay. The struggle. Sometimes it's just too hard to write a poem. All the reasons that make you cry out, so filled with tears, words wash away, run in rivulets down soggy page. Sometimes it's just too hard to find the rhythm to make crickets sing, let tears trickle smooth, turn jazz cool in the house, write lines that slither loose. Telling this thing beyond words, not having any luck, struggling with it, getting fingernails under it, scraping away pretty words to show the raw underneath. Sometimes it's too hard to write a poem that isn't polished to gleam softly under a street lamp in the dark night. Empty stores holding hard secrets keep getting in the way. And now the men can take a break if you like, because this poem is actually directed to something or all women might find difficult. On buying a bra in Macy's. Can't be put off any longer. It is necessary to buy a bra. The old one stretched out, not remotely supportive. I go with trepidation. The modern lingerie department, designed by a sadist, makes a purchase a cruel joke. Crushed together, circular stands with row upon row of tiny plastic hangers dangling scraps of nylon made for adolescent breasts, stand like sentinels against my search. Aha, I find a possible garment. Crouch down to peer into the maze, jammed hangers, side tags askew. Wait, I think I hear hysterical laughter from unseen salespersons, doubled over, tears of glee streaming. Now I'm silently screaming. Oh, the hell with it. The old ones will have to do. Ever hear of that, ladies? Oh, okay. My husband and I traveled quite a bit, and I wrote this poem while we were traveling for 3 weeks in China, which was great. And we traveled in a small, like houseboat down the Yangtze River. So this is traveling down the Yangtze River. Very. Evening shadows blur the landscape as we sail the Yangtze River. Calm, calm, the shallow water, bathing the rounded rocks below. Dawn lays misty fingers on rounded hills. Villages along the banks emerge from sleep. Strains of Aru music fill the cabin. Foreign sights each China morning. Pebbled golden sand stretching on each side. Draws a line between sky and land. Dense forest with monkeys swinging, loud and free among the trees. Ancient landscape painters, drew these mountains just as they are, just as they are. And these are poems from my book that I wrote, 30 poems in 30 days. That's the most I could do, Judy. Anyway, and it won a first prize, so there you go. It was poems, 30 poems in 30 days, and the music that inspired them. So the first one is, the music is from Magnificat, and Ere Arose a Lovely Rose by John Rutter. How wonderful when the world waits outside my window each day, fresh and new, never before seen, there to be enjoyed, spent foolishly or wisely, the choice mine. This gift of God shared without cost, just by opening a curtain and looking, paradise appears. And another one from the same book, Memories of the Alhambra, Francisco Tárrega, Night. Night has a way of making things worse, like silences stop speech. Dark presses a finger against its lips. There is no way to call for help. On a lonely road to somewhere, night comes down quick and harsh. Fog covers the winding yellow line, muffling the sound of turning tires. And I wish for one helpful voice to listen to my troubles. Where is the light whose countenance is smiling, inviting an easy exchange, begins a song to bounce off the windows, fill the car with sounds to banish stillness? Let the journey be away from darkness. Let all the lights be green, with all boxes at every, with call boxes at every corner, marked for help. Stop here. Okay. These are from my book, Tracing My Shadow. And I was in the hospital. I think it might have been for my knee replacement, some joint being replaced. And there was a woman in the next bed in my room. Tennessee Williams and the buffing machine. A silvery swish in the hall, machine turning circles of wax into gleam, the sound soothing silence into the particular place. In the next hospital bed, a lost voice. Amanda, are you there? Amanda, do you want breakfast? She asks. Juice? I think orange would be nice. Or you could have orange grapefruit. I can go to the market. Do you want breakfast? Through a hallway lined with doors half open, the voice searches for meaning. Corridors of confusion leading nowhere, returning to the beginning. Where am I? I need answers. Am I in the hospital? Why don't you let me get up? I can walk, for goodness sake. I can't find it. Where? I don't know. Is it Tuesday? The machine hums softly, approaches the door, circles the room, recedes, fills the corner of the dark, quiets it. Amanda, can you find me? And from that same book, oh, this is very, very nice. Watching the organizational chart crumble. Once in a while, your pie chart loses a slice, shifts its shape completely out of whack. Other pieces drop out. Soon it is not a pie, but a formless bits of percentages that don't add up to a whole. Cogs in smooth working machinery catch. Stop the presses. Nothing gets printed that day. A tiny chip malfunctions. The clock radio ceases to play. The gear shift won't go into drive. The computer unravels the web. The television goes into static arrest. And in the middle of the night, you feel everything begin to slide. Papers pile up on every surface. Neat folders don't follow rules. To-do notes spill under the bookcase. And with a sinking feeling, you realize you don't know how to fix any of it. And that won first prize, as a matter of fact. This is about writing, about being old. Another really happy poem from E. Kandel. Okay, Ars Poetica. The Impossible Weight of Being Human. That's by Edward Hirsch. We all get inconsequential eventually. Our concerns become trivial to others. We do not understand the new ways. Everything moves too fast, even talk. We become the misunderstood periphery, rotating around the edges of life. Still, I can see rain splatters make abstract patterns on the front steps, look under wetted leaves to learn their secrets, watch storm clouds darken the yard. Lightning energizes me. I feel I can slow down the trumpeting outside and make it my own. The storm calms, watery blue sky lightens. The black lifts black clouds, drapes a mauve blanket of dust over the horizon. I feel at peace. I can turn on my lamp. I have what I need. I can stay inside and write this poem. And this is the end of my reading, and it's called The Beginning. I'm about beginnings, something new, always on the front burner, ready to start stewing an untried dish, ignite the fading flames of interest in cooking the tried and true. New shoes to take me into and out again. I'm about cleaning up, clearing out, jettisoning old, worn, tiresome, liking the empty shelves, nothing on countertops, refrigerator devoid of half-empty bottles, jars of stale tomato sauce, 2 olives in slightly off olive oil. I'm about leaving for someplace new, always packing a bag with comfort things, a blanket with a blue satin binding, small boxes with small treasures inside, a supply of secret silences, learning to make friends in the new place, yet knowing I'll see you means never. I'm about beginnings, even when implausible. The energy needed for the start over, not as readily available, yet carrying on, getting up and getting going, being busy, polishing the skill of always smiling, giving laughter as presents. I'm definitely about beginnings in the end. And did I use up my time?
And you can use whatever time you want, Evelyn.
Oh, well, I have a few from my newest book, which is Let There Be Clouds. Boop.
Sure. Two or three is fine.
Okay, great. So I photographed all the clouds each day, except one day when there were no clouds. And Let's see what I would like. Sitting at a traffic light in my car, in my little cave of my car, I wrote this. From the cave of my car, I see the sky, a canvas spread with deep blue colors, soft patches of soft white pastel overtaking the blue beneath its softness. Tips of tree branches barely seen on the horizon, the view from under my hooded windshield. Wave like children's fingers, a traffic light is suspended like the bird who momentarily hesitates in flight, as if to admire the painting it finds itself part of. Preening in front of my car before swooping away into the largest cloud, disappearing from view, reappearing, sitting on the traffic light and on the wires crossing the street. From there, it becomes lost again in the clouds. The light changes and I drive on. This was, you probably won't be able to see it, but this is the picture. Can you see it at all? It was an incredible sky, indigo clouds, and a quote from Samuel Coleridge, strange and extreme silentness. I stand in my darkened kitchen, watching days end, with massed clouds in a final color display. One lighted window in the house down the hill catches my eye. Its outlined form stands silhouetted against the sunset's supreme glory. A strange illusion. The sky appears to shine through this opening in the house wall. Long Island Sound is hidden beyond the house, yet I imagine the brilliance of sunset reflected on the water. Translucent streaks of orange inflame the darkening blue, send indigo clouds rising to join night's velvet blackness. Bare trees raise branches in quiet supplication to this celestial display. Now, when the world goes on somewhere else, I praise this gift in silence. And one more. Okay. The churches in Glen Cove have a service on the beach down by the water. So I wrote this to that Easter on the beach. Spread across the sky like a billboard on a building in Times Square, a giant advertisement for a never before event. Spectacular, brashly announcing, now appearing for today only, Greco-Roman white billowing clouds filling the painted sky blue backdrop, masses upon masses climbing upward from horizon to top of domed space. We watched from the park by the water as we celebrated this holy day, thinking, you got to love how he does things. God really does work in miraculous ways. Okay. And that's it. Thank you so much for listening.
Absolutely wonderful. Everybody, please unmute yourselves and give her a nice round of applause.
That's great, Evelyn.
Ooh,
Wonderful.
thank you.
Excellent, Evelyn. So beautiful.
Wonderful.
To everyone.
Okay. All right. Well, that was absolutely fantastic. And now we're going to go into our open mic. Again, if you do not want to be in the open mic, please put that in the chat. Okay. Otherwise, I assume everybody here wants to be. And what I'll do is I will start with somebody and then say the next person is on deck. For those of you who are not sportsing people, that means that you're next. So get yourself ready. So we're going to start off with Abby and Marvin. You're on deck. And I think Abby left us. So we're going to go with Marvin and Emiliano. You're on deck.
Can you hear me?
Sure can, Marvin.
Okay. It's called Blood Rules. I hated even God, you must admit. It's a catchy opening written by this kid who had to write about a happening. I hated even God when I found out I was not theirs. After our car went off the road, the doctor said there was no match. DNA, I think he said. In truth, there was not hate, but shock at first. The hate came when my parents closed the door, leaving me standing in the hall. When they went out to find their child, I thought it had been me. They tracked him down, records do not lie. When they returned, they said they'd sue to get the boy they always wanted. Girl, go away. We don't know you. Blood rules and soul. I was not theirs, though I was for 13 years. I could not live in the hall. I had to eat to find a place. Mother, father, one last time, under the bridge where men came. I stayed 2 years. Now I'm here in this school, writing this report. You must admit this is some piece, but now what action do I take, if any? Show it to a counselor, the principal, her parent, what parents? Talk to her, insult her maybe, ask her if it's real. Would she cry if I approach? She looks so sad, never reads in class. Will she ever write again? How accurate is DNA? I don't teach science. Do I meddle? Is it meddling? A fool I'd be if it's a joke. I teach English. Grammar I can correct, but am I correct to let it pass into the pile of pupil work? Record a grade, begin Hamlet, procrastinate, and let it be? Blood rules and soul. How thick is it?
Thank you, Marvin. Thank you very much. Okay, Emiliano, you're up. Ancone, you're on deck.
Thank you, Tony, at all. As a matter of fact, is the name of this poem. If the rain falls on the desert, soon it will evaporate. On the contrary, over the green of a forest, it is different, for there is no drop going down to waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, Anne, you're up, and Kenya, you're on deck.
All right, I have a very short poem, one sentence.
One sentence.
One sentence. All shook up, shaking the snow globe, released a glittering swirl of infinitesimal particles settling into cracks and crevices of a miniature alpine village whose Lilliputian inhabitants hid in terror until the giant child's hand loosened its grip in pursuit of a new toy to wreak havoc on.
Thank you, Anne. All right, Kenya, you're up, and Doreen, you're on deck.
Okay. 1 second.
Sure.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is called Human Connection. These days, many of us are craving a human connection. What stops us from creating a human connection? One-way relationships, people passing judgment, people having ill intentions, hidden agendas, and people being self-centered, and not enough time allowing a human connection to be formed. So that leaves us feeling isolated with no support. We were all born with a family, but at times there's no connection, no commonality, nothing that keeps us together. Sometimes we are craving a human connection from family members who do not want to be bothered with us. So, what do we do then? We find friends, but there's still no connection. No one picks up the phone. Everyone is too busy to show up to birthdays, but flood the funeral homes when you're no longer here. They were unable to be present when your body was here, but can be present when your presence is no longer here. Is that a human connection? One-sided relationships? People forgetting that we all have lives, but it's still important to make time for a human connection. Thank you for listening.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much, Kenya. Thank you. Okay. So Doreen, you're up, and Paula, you're on deck.
Thank you, Tony. Evelyn, that was just wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Rethinking. Once upon a few years ago, I began to fail understanding words that pummeled my ears. They didn't make sense. I gathered it was an age disparity, age being over the hill, the speakers, writers, so young. I'm rethinking that conclusion. While the hill has continued growing, and the separation too, I realize the disparity isn't lingual, it's social and intellectual, and heaven help us, political. I don't get it. That is, I don't understand the 21st century, its language, its intent, its direction. So I'm turning off the sound, listening to my old thoughts. They were sweet, even when they were usefully angry. I'm going to make a cup of tea, sit far away from the crowd without falling off the earth, gather the roses I've read about, find my lost smile, resuscitate my old innocence, and breathe. Thank you.
Thank you, Doreen. Wonderful as always. All right. Paula, you're up, and Sheila, you're on deck.
Hi, everyone. Evelyn, thank you for that wonderful reading. I'm going to choose to read this I Am poem because it's about a poem. And Evelyn had that whole poem on poems process going on there. So for you, Evelyn. I am not a tabloid. I am a poem, a living, breathing carbon unit. I am not editorial news, but a life story of alternating text, a character with depth, rewriting. I am not a graphic novel, but a set of leather bound, cherished on a shelf to be opened with permission for reading. I am not entertainment, a barrage of false narratives for someone to create, so it has a second go at breaking. So please stop telling me what you think I am. I am a poem.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paula.
Excellent, Paula.
All right, Sheila, you're up. Joe Cottonwood, you're on deck.
Okay, hello everyone. Evelyn, you were wonderful. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay, this one's called It's Just a Number. It's just a number, they say. But when I look in the mirror, oy vey, my reflection is not what I thought. What happened? I feel so distraught. Seems like yesterday when I was just a teen. I'm not young anymore or old, just in between. I was able to do more then, but now it's more like when. Time has flown by so fast. Did I think staying young would last? Maturing fast like no other. I think that I've become my mother. Doesn't matter what age you are, as long as you can still drive a car. If someone asks me my age, I don't go into a fit of rage. I'm young at heart, I'll say out loud. That's what I am, and I am proud. I'll tell them, for they don't believe me anyway. But you know something? I think I look okay.
Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Joe, you're up, and Lloyd, you're on deck. And we seem to have lost Joe. And Rena is bailing on us. All right, so Lloyd, you're up, and John, you're on deck.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. When the curtain has been lowered, maybe I shouldn't complain. Since the pandemic began, we haven't gotten COVID like almost 100 million people in the US, nor succumbed like one of the 1 million who've died. But there has been a cost: masking and keeping our distance, isolating in our own home, not being with people whom we love until lately, constantly strategizing to remain safe and healthy, performing risk-reward analyses while struggling to keep it all together. Before COVID, I developed a love of live theater. We'd become members of 3 or 4 theater companies. We bought first row discounted tickets, and sitting so close has been visceral and exciting. In 9 of the 12 months in 2019, we attended 20 Saturday evening shows, some on the Great White Way, but most off Broadway. It became our thing, or as my wife might argue, my thing. We brown bagged it in on the Long Island Railroad Express, walked to theaters near Penn Station, or subwayed uptown or to Brooklyn. Then after a performance, we bought fruit at a 24-hour 8th Avenue stand, or frozen yogurt before heading for home. Most of the shows were really compelling, creative and funny and touching. Some were extraordinary and memorable, although we did walk out of an intolerable few. This year, we're members of only one theater company, an easy walk from Penn Station. We've gone to several enjoyable and thought-provoking shows. We wear masks on the train and in the theater. We provide proof we've been vaccinated and boosted. We avoid getting close to people while we're walking, and the whole going to see a show experience will never be the same. And I'm so damn sad and I'm so damn angry because I love live theater so damn much. But despite our ages and our associated health risks, we are still alive. And that's a damn good thing.
There you go.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Lloyd. Okay. John, you're up, and Barbara, you're on deck.
I hope some of you remember Big Little Books. The title of the poem is Big Little Books. I remember a world worse in some ways, better in others. My father made me a bookcase out of an orange crate. We lived in Rogers Park in Chicago, Illinois, near Lake Michigan. You could walk to the lake, Lake Michigan, with its Navy pier, its perch and turtles. The bookcase was for big little books. These were about 4 inches square with better than 400 pages. They cost 10 cents and later 15 cents. And so, neat as they were, you had to be careful and not buy too many. There was Flash Gordon, Dick Tracy, Tarzan the Terrible, Mickey Mouse, Smilin' Jack, and many others. That was a nice little bookcase made out of an orange crate. I remember that world, the world of big little books, worse in some ways, better in others.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great.
Thank you, John. That was wonderful. Hope you saw the link that I put in the chat. And for anybody else here who hasn't signed up, if you would, I'm going to be filling up the some of the slots later in the week. Vincent, are you going to be reading? Do you have anything for us before I go to Barbara? Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah. I think Evelyn said you have to hear as friends. All right, that's great. So Barbara, you're up, and Larry, you're on deck.
All right. Thank you, Evelyn, for your reading. I enjoyed it very much.
You're welcome.
The name of my poem tonight is Hope. Stepping into the elevator, not caring whether it's going up or down. A pimple on the face of the earth to be squeezed until it bursts, invisible to the other passengers. the society woman staring silently ahead, the buck-toothed boy in uniform absently twisting his dog tags around his fingers, the business-suited man talking boldly into what seems to be space, until noticing the earbuds growing out of his head. The operator, a beautiful devil, guiding us past interesting stops on our way to the outskirts of hell. Living in this pandemic-ravaged world is like standing alone in our hopes and dreams, or being an ominous, distracted mourner at our own funeral, taking a vow of emotional poverty, knowing deep we cannot treat the wounds of this tortured world, beauty and kindness buried under so much shit. White-capped surges birth deep at sea, massage gritty shores. A fairy light quivers in distant forest shadows. Hope is more than wishful thinking. It is both safe and uncomfortable, calling us outside of ourselves to live with reckless abandon. Hope is freedom, stripping us of our fears like discarding our dirty clothes to dance naked with God. Thank you for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay. So Larry, you're up. And unless I miss somebody, Judy, you're going to bring it home for us tonight. I wanted to wait until the medicine really kicked in. I'd like to hear you on full oxy.
I've started writing a Christmas letter. Here's part of it. I do most of the cooking these days, and it might surprise you to know that we only have meatloaf every other week in 2022. There's a farmer's market in our town on Sunday mornings from around June through early December. I go there and usually come home with some ugly vegetable that I then have to look up how to cook. One of my discoveries this year was celery root. This is a light brown ball with a series of little arms on top. The hide, or whatever it's called, has to come off this thing. An axe will do the trick, provided it's a sharp axe. Once the hide is off, you can cut the celery root into little cubes. I put some cubes into soup and they're pretty good. If you don't want to eat them, the cubes would be perfect for throwing at the guy at the gym who's always talking loudly on his cell phone, or for sticking under the leg of an uneven table at a restaurant. Irene and I are both doing a lot of writing. She is putting together a string of short stories about growing up in Whiting, Indiana, and then marrying Larry. Her tentative title is, I Know, I Should Have Left Him Years Ago. Larry is nearly finished with a wordy look back at the career of a friend who is an orthopedic surgeon. He's hoping no other writer has thought of the title, Yes, of course it's going to hurt, and yes, it's too late for a second opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. As always, get a kick. All right. So if I didn't miss anybody, then I'm going to ask Judy, bring it on home.
Okay. Thank you, Evie. Thank you all. Thank you, Tony. I'm delighted that I have a place to be. This is a one-time only read poem. Impression, a found poem. Approximate 9 by 8 by 8 millimeter, irregular, poorly defined, low signal, calcific tendinosis of the anterior supranatus tendon insertion. Mild erosion into the superior facet of the greater tuberosity. Low-grade interstitial tear of the central supranatus tendon, insertion, moderate tendinopathy, poorly defined intermediate grade articulate surface tear of the proximal posterior supranatus tendon. Infranatus tendinopathy with broad low-grade articulate surface tear along the insertion. Additional low-grade interstitial tear of the superior insertional fibers of the subcapulus tendon. Degeneration of the superior labrum, moderate subacromium, subdeltoid bursitis, mild adhesive capulitis, medical sublimation of the long head bicep tendon from the superior bicep, double groove, mild hitro pocket, clinical joint degeneration, conclusion, my arm hurts.
That's wonderful. We had a little problem with the recording. Judy, could you read that again?
Yeah, in your dreams.
Well, I want to thank everybody once again. This is a wonderful evening. Evelyn, thank you so much. It's always a delight to
Thank
hear
you.
you. And we welcome, we thank everybody. We will have one more before the holidays. So we will see you in 2 weeks. For those of you who are not on our email list, please put your email in the chat. And for those of you who if you go to the top of the chat, actually I'll put it in again. The form to read, and the thing that you should know is that I do give preference to people that come to it. I think that's only fair. So with that, everybody, have a wonderful evening. I'll leave the room open for people who want to chat and socialize, as we always do. So good night, everybody.